What's up? It's Echo disrupting with trending topics in the spotlight, breaking down what's right with smooth grooves and R&B. Feel we bring the heat, critical thought for everyday life. We keep it real.
Hey there, welcome back to Echo Disrupted Season 2, Episode 6. We in here. What's going on?
We are in the interesting times of Trump 2.0 and all the changes that we are now seeing. So it is always good to get with you and to chat and to go over these, these events. But my gosh, is it frightening? Um, it's just the world is changing around us at such a rapid pace. It's almost hard. It's almost hard for us to kind of stay on top of things. But again, always cool to chat, always get together and exchange ideas.
No, absolutely. So we're recording on February 25th, which is always key since there's always some new events happening. So where you
I mean,
want to jump in?
everything is ever like I just said, right? It's everything is ever changing. I'm glad that you put the date together, right? Because what we thought was news yesterday is old news, and by the time today comes around, it's all of that's dead, and we got a whole bunch of new stuff. But I would really like to talk about Joy Ann Reid's show getting canceled and what that means. The writing was on the wall. Anybody who's been paying attention and listening to the narratives, you got to give the Joe Scarboroughs and Mika Brzezinski's a tip of the cap and kudos, because they saw the writing on the wall and opted to go kiss the ring in order to avoid what could potentially be career suicide for them. But to see somebody like who's been over the last, damn near 5 years become, what looked like an institution and a fixture on that network to unceremoniously be canceled, that says a level of that indicates what the level of fear from the networks are, as well as the willingness to dispose of the talent, no matter what impact it's having, from your roster, simply because the discomfort that the truth creates for the American public, and especially the American powers that be. Again, listen, I had a love-hate relationship with Joy. I love to watch her shows. I think she was informative, but I'd watch the show on Tuesday and come back and watch Monday. Come back and watch it on Wednesday, and she's a completely different looking individual. And I'm like, this chick need to chill out with all these costume changes. But the one thing you couldn't knock was she's brilliant, right? She is her ability to capture a story and put it in plain terms, right? She's a Harvard graduate. Like this, let's not get it effed up, right? She's and she comes from humble beginnings, right? I believe her mother was Guyanese, I believe, and her father was from one of the countries in Africa, right? She was from Colorado, and just got into Harvard, right through and I forgot what the method was, but long story short is nothing was handed to her. Right, she was running around in the streets of Brooklyn. Right, her and her husband, kind of, manning I believe it was a community radio station that was playing, Jamaican music. Right, it's like to watch the things that she can blend. Right, and I always say our people are uniquely positioned to be able to provide perspectives that makes the other side cringe. Right, let's just keep it a buck. What the fuck is Megyn Kelly talking about? She's going to provide you with a perspective that is milk toast and vanilla, that only people that she resonates with will pick up on. But she's not talking to a broad audience, right? So a Joy Reid, with all of her attributes and all of her accomplishments and all of the stride she had to make in order to get into that position, to be able to be the host of a primetime show on a big network as MSNBC, what her resume needed to look like in order for her to get to that point, God knows, right? That's double, triple, quadruple, anything, right? That a Megyn Kelly could even consider, could even imagine, excuse me. Mm-hmm. So it's tough to watch it happen to her because I'm sure it was uncomfortable. But the other part of that is too is now she's unleashed. So her there's speculation as to what drove it, right? Was it that they said it's ratings, but okay, the network is taking a beating as far as ratings. Joe and Meek are taking a beating as far as ratings are concerned, right? But they're safe. So, but what they were saying is essentially her position on Gaza and not relenting and not playing the role. Also, her willingness to stand up to Trump and call him what he is. And from my understanding, the new management at MSNBC is is asking or mandating that there are more Republican voices. So, with that being the case, it's good to see that she's no longer beholden to those corporate interests that are going to tell you what you can say, what you can't say, how to behave yourself, and what's okay to say and what's not okay to say, and how you need to comport yourself. Listen, when you work for somebody, you draw a paycheck. Those are the things that you have to consider. Your path is determined by the person that's signing your checks. I get it. This is what it is. But it's going to be cool to see what she turns into without those restraints. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, definitely fair. It is interesting because I cut the cord. I had to think about how long ago it was. I think it was like 2008, 2009. So I really, when I would catch
If you don't mind me
anything,
interrupting, when you say cut the cord, what do you mean? You haven't
I haven't had cable since then.
man, listen, no, in no form, no fashion, no nothing.
No form, no fashion, like
Okay,
literally. So,
okay.
and that was out of what bill we need to cut
There we go.
because things were happening at that time. So all of that to say is that when I would catch any clips, it would be off on YouTube, and I'm probably, I don't know who's funding it. Somebody overseas. There's always somebody posting up clips of different shows. So that's how I would catch a lot of the cable shows. And that's how I would see anything. And it really was AM Joy was probably one of the main ones before. I saw more of AM Joy than I seen of the readout.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying. And at first, when I heard the news, I was a little conflicted because I was like, well, you know, it was bound to happen. So
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't a surprise because this has been percolating, be it from Tiffany Cross, Melissa Perry. There's been a whole slew of things. So I wouldn't say I was surprised. I think I was more along the lines of embracing where this media landscape is going and taking advantage of it, and not saying that everybody needs to be Roland Martin, because I'm quite sure, and I think he already did a dissertation on it. I did not have the mental bandwidth or capacity today to listen to him, but the whole process, it opens up doors for her to do different things,
Mm-hmm.
and I think timing is everything. Would this have been something that would have maybe been possible 5 years ago? Yeah, but will she have had the trajectory to do it and embrace it and get momentum the way she can today? I probably not. So I know she has the YouTube channel. Gosh, I always forget her name.
Jackie
She's a
Reed.
Thank you, Jackie Reed. And that's been around for a minute. So now I'm quite sure it's starting to get more traction, and that's great. So I think it's a good time for her. I think I was just more conflicted around the timing and really looking at, in addition to her, all the other folks that got their shows chopped. And if I would have thought someone that would have still maintained, I would have thought that Capehart would have probably still been around if you had to keep a face there. Eamon, I know for sure. I was like, I'm surprised he was even still on after they
Yeah.
got rid of Medi.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just, so it's just a very interesting time. And I think the way the landscape is and the way everyone is looking for news and having reliable sources and being able to access it, I think this is a good time for her. I'm
I,
not.
I totally agree, especially with the advent of the Don Lemons, right? The Bulwark Network, the MeidasTouch Network, right? This is the timing could be really, really good, right? So the Midas Network knocked off Joe Rogan as the main podcast and what have you. So she could be in a really good space. I also think something you just said, I'm going to key on. I didn't necessarily like who was really listening to news anyway, right? At this point, you watch if and when you watch her show, it's almost to just hear that perspective. I didn't watch like any of those other shows because at some point, these guys aren't telling the truth, right? I was having a conversation the other day. Meet the Press was on, and I walked out of the room because some guy, some Trump sycophant was on bending the truth. And the person I was watching it with was like, I said, I don't watch this nonsense. I said, oh wow, no, she's gonna ask in what's the I forgot the host of Meet the Press. What's her name? But he BS'd her on the answer, and she comes back and she's civil in with the next question as opposed to grilling him, knowing full well that the answer that he provided was wrong. So because now you're concerned about your job because your network is worried about the FCC licensing and all the rest of the stuff that comes along with, with the dictator in charge now, you're now concerned about how you answer questions. So now it's essentially, this is performative. You guys are on TV just doing a kabuki act, right? Everybody just, coming out here and performing, but nobody's telling me the truth. Why would I watch that? Right? Why would I engage? So the people on Trump's side can come out here and say whatever they want, right? Whatever the truth is, they could just completely ignore it. And I'm going to sit here and watch that versus knowing that even though it's not the same structure on YouTube without the same production value, but there's still if my objective is to hear the truth or something as close to it as I can get, well, where am I going to gravitate towards? Again, why the MeidasTouch Network has done what they've been doing, right? And have been able to supplant Joe Rogan as the #1 podcast because obviously they have figured out, right? The people that they're bringing in there, even the Bulwark and the guys that they're bringing on there, right? As having their own slots and their own shows. These guys are viewed as credible people, right? Some of the people from the Lincoln Project, right, have their own. I think the gentleman's name is Rick Wilson. He has his own show. Steve Smith, who used to be one of the contributors on MSNBC, and he used to be John McCain's campaign manager. He's got a channel on YouTube, and these guys are able to, they're unbridled, right? They're not being held back by the same forces that have Mika Brzezinski having to apologize when somebody says something on her show and kind of essentially, doing doing a mea culpa and say and pleading no contest. Hey, or what is it called again? When you're when you say the content of this
disclaimer.
There you go. Wow. She had to do a disclaimer because somebody said something about Trump being convicted, and she had to go make sure that wasn't attributed to her. It's like, okay, is this what we doing now?
Right. Well, she don't want that 15 million. What I do find is interesting, and I'm going to be curious to see how it works, is that you mentioned like the Lincoln Project and what role they played because in the elections and coming out with a lot of the commercials. Conway was also with them. I don't know if he's still with them or not. And I kind of liken it to the sensationalism of putting out there like content that's in your face, punchy. It's not your usual, toe the line, keep it cute type of advertising or commercials. And what does that mean? Right. And it's a thin line because, with the election and it becoming even more apparent that there was interference, meaning, and this is even looking at Germany, they already talked about how there was interference in their elections that they just had. So if we look at them, making these commercials, not necessarily having an impact, because if you believe that there's some kind of covert activities that were happening, be it however, right? Stealing votes, all of the things, then it makes me wonder, even if they go so hard, will it have an effect on an election, right? So be it Midas, and I'm just talking and saying and observing. Midas, what, they close to, I guess, 5 million. They go hard in the paint. I think they put content out every millisecond, based on all of the different people that are in their network. And it is like heavily no Trump or Elon or whoever. And I'm just curious if it'll have an impact down the line when we get to elections.
Good question. Good question. If we're gonna use the cheating aspect, right, of them stealing elections, and that's starting to pick up a little bit of buzz. Some votes overturned in Arizona, from what I'm hearing, and it doesn't appear as though Trump is actually banking on only doing 4 years, right?
That's true too.
The changes that they're trying to make, right? It's essentially this dude wants to be here forever. But I would assume if Trump continues to do what he's doing right now, he's essentially digging his own grave politically, right? He's a lame duck anyway, but he's even more of a lame duck in terms of everybody, the midterms. If these
special elections too that are coming up,
yeah. But the other part of that too is, right, I mean, this is on the people who are willing to be informed. Will that fire up the base? Very likely, right? But you're still going to be contending with the rural America, right? Who don't know their ass from their elbows, right? Who have perpetually shot themselves in the foot politically every time, right? Which kind of leads us into our next topic, right? In terms of the FAFO crowd, and the pain that these people are all going through right now. We're very early in the Trump 2.0 experience. So what that's going to look like 2 years from now, 3 years from now, we'll see, right? Midterms elections will tell us much.
I also, go ahead.
No, please.
No, I also think though that with the momentum that they get, so you get your 5 millions, you get your streams. I guess Don Lemon is at 500,000. Your Katie Couric, she's still out here doing something too. Even if whoever else comes into that space, at that time Google was at the inauguration, and if it comes down to that, I can see very easily things getting copyright, or if it's not even copyright, getting struck for different things, suppression, the same algorithm that everybody talks about, that it can put something in your face. It can also take something and shadow ban you as well. So it's just going to be very interesting to see how these things play out, and being able to be a few steps ahead in the sense that maybe this may not be, the access through, being able to conveniently turn on YouTube or get something on your phone. The way this thing is going, and I hate to be Debbie Downer, but
really good.
We got concerns about power grids. We got all this open access. You got China and Russia doing their own little army, like they were doing drills themselves together. Like
really?
There's a lot, there's a lot going on. It's not just what we're seeing, but it's also the impacts of how things go. And I did not even watch 0 Day yet on Netflix, because I was like, I don't need my anxiety right there right now.
That is an absolute must.
I got that from another friend of mine too, and I was like, you know what, the way my anxiety was set up on some other stuff, I said, let me give everybody peace and not watch it. But it is on my this weekend list. But anyway, so all of that to say that there's just more to it than what we're experiencing in the front, and being able to be a few steps ahead in terms of, if we can't access things the way we normally do, that whole idea of like mobilization, be it, old school email or whatever it is, having alternate means to really be able to tap into those credible sources that you might listen to. I'm sorry.
I totally agree. Look, these guys are the ones that are controlling the information now, right? So the information is the information is being controlled by the guys, by the enemy, right? For all intents and purposes. So yeah, what that looks like going forward is, is scary, right? To be candid, and what to what extent these people are willing to do Trump and his cronies bidding is going to be an interesting watch.
Yeah, and I think today Trump was saying that they're gonna handpick who can be in their press briefings. Like
Yeah.
it's a whole
Yep.
So
So yeah, it's that doesn't feel like a 4-year play to me, right? It feels like within between now and the next 3 years, somebody's going to be trying to make a move to keep, to switch up how we do things or how we've traditionally done things. He doesn't care about tradition. His argument that he had with the lady from Maine, right? The governor of Maine telling her, "Oh, you need to get in line. You need to do it. You need to essentially get with the program." She says, "Well, I'll see you in court." And you're watching like the different exchanges. I've watched the different exchanges on social media. And like I was saying about the people in rural America, right? The people who don't even understand, like him making that kind of him being willing to get into that kind of conflict in public. In their mind, they're like, "Oh wow, she doesn't know what she's in for." I'm like, wait, what? Like, did you see what he just said? But this is where we are. This is why it's what this could potentially be going forward. This may not, at the end of the day, this just might not be the country for you anymore, right? Because we've got people who simply would prefer having a king, people who prefer having what appears to be a monarchy, right? And do not care who the head of that monarchy is and what their qualifications are, as long as it's a white dude. So with that being the case, right, it's you have to kind of look at things long term and say, where is this going? And what is this going to feel like if this just continues to go this way? And just pray for the best. But I mean, in my opinion, the genie's out of the bottle, right? Or the toothpaste is out of the tube. There's no putting this back together. And does the Jasmine, Crockett, and AOC faction of the party kind of start to make their voices a little bit more prominent? We will see, right? Because the Chuck Schumers and Hakeem Jeffries may not be the way, right? Chuck Schumer's asleep, right? Chuck Schumer's asleep, and Hakeem Jeffries is from Park Slope, meaning he's just too smooth. And this ain't,
according to, I guess they had some kind of presser today. Well, it turned into a presser in Washington where they were saying that Hakeem Jeffries put it together, where I guess people were talking about what they experienced, and then it became a presser, and then that's where Jasmine Crockett got that question that was asked to her about what would she say to Elon.
I like her.
Yeah, so I think she dropped his name a couple of times. So I think that he represents the money link to me.
Yeah.
He's the one that, will, if it's be behind the scenes, and I hate to get into this whole Roland Martin and his panels and how he just fussed down these women. It just drives me crazy. But there was a discussion about, her name was, I believe, Joy too. And the very long story short is that the panelist was saying that she believes like maybe it should go back to the way things used to be, in that even with the DNC, there was somebody that was up front and they were the one that was doing all the rah-rah, and then you had somebody in the back that was brokering the deals. And I think that's probably what's starting to happen, where Hakeem Jeffries is going to be that link to the money, because you're still going to need some kind of coin to be able to fund whatever the direction is of the Democratic Party. And I heard Jasmine Crockett mention his name a couple of times, where I have not heard her mention him before. So okay. I think that it's probably catching wind that people are like, yeah, Park Slope, you got to step up. Yeah.
And listen, Charlemagne kind of blew his spot up the other day too. And I think the sucky part about those guys, right? The Charlemagnes of the world and some of these other people, the new media folks, I think these dudes think they don't understand there's a protocol that you need to follow, right? It is, he's like, oh, the way that Hakeem Jeffries comes across and Chuck Schumer, they don't connect with people. None, right? You a dumb nigga from South Carolina, right? This idea that you think everything's rah, 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 and everybody wants to fight all the time. That's not how life really goes, right? I know there's some people who really need to be excited to go vote. I don't know why, right? Some people who really need to be fired up. Voting is voting. When you say I'm not fired up or I am fired up to go vote, okay, when that dies down, what do you feel like? Right? So if you can't hear what a Hakeem, and I think in my mind, there's room for both. Jasmine Crockett, I like a lot. I like AOC a lot, right? You need somebody kind of being willing to punch these dudes in their mouth when they get out of line. There's also got to be the smooth dude that is able to process information and be able to go out here and communicate it in a nice, subdued voice that is, that is communicative and understands cues and understands when and when not to, right? Because everybody can't be the firebrand. We can't have a whole party full of firebrands. Like, it just doesn't work. So, I would have loved to have seen Jasmine Crockett and AOC in leadership positions, but the old guard is trying to hold on to what they got, right? And at the end of the day, politics is about power, right? Politics is about power. And this is the other aspect that, some people don't get. Politics is about power. You talking about, oh, yeah, we want people to come out here and do this, that, and the third. It's like, bro, that's just not how it goes. You have to, there's rules that you need to follow, especially in this time where when the guy with all the power is willing to say, I don't care nothing about structure. Somebody's got to say, yo, if we got to continue as a country, we all can't just be coming out here pulling our guns out, because what we gonna do? Because now we just got to shoot out every day. Right, grandma getting shot, babies are getting shot, and they ain't got no guns. So there's got to be somebody who is willing to be the peacemaker, or at least play the game in public, while they send their goons out, AOC and Jasmine Crockett, to come out here and lay into some of these people. Look, we can continue to talk about it. We can have a conversation about new media versus old, but yeah, I'm of the mind that let's see how this thing turns out. We only a month in.
Yeah, absolutely. As always, a good quick hit episode. Always good to catch up on topics. If you like what you're hearing, make sure you like, share, subscribe, share it with your peoples. All right.
We are in the social media streets. Come check us out.
Echo Disrupted Pod. All right. Later.
What's up? It's Echo Disrupted. We're vibing tonight. Trending topics in the spotlight, breaking down what's right. With smooth grooves and R&B, feel we bring the heat. Critical thought for everyday life. We're keeping it real.